Welcome back, my friends, to another shave. Today it's brought to us by, well, it's C.O. Bigelow, but this is Proraso, and we're trying out that, still working on that SSA, trying to get that edge right. I did some more work on it today. I brought out the big guns this morning and did some hunting on conical today. That's a little bit harsher stone than the Jasper. It just has more abrasive stuff in there. The garnets, microscopic garnets, that make it a good stone. We are using cold water today, and that is kind of what we're going to talk about history-wise. Not a whole lot going on as far as the boys in Cambridge or boys in Ticonderoga. There's three basic camps that we have colonial soldiers at. But we are talking about the camps themselves today. Main camp under George Washington was at Cambridge, Massachusetts. Had somewhere between 14 and 17,000 soldiers staying there at any one time. And also at any one time, of those 14,000, you'd have some 15 to 2,000 being on sick call of one kind or another. You get a whole bunch of people camping in fairly close proximity to one another, but not necessarily all that great sanitation. Well, okay, it was pretty bad. Drinking water was polluted. Even though they were in the field, they were expected to keep up some level of grooming. In other words, they really wanted the soldiers to be clean shaven. They had a problem there in that there weren't that many razors to go around, and they were shaving with river water. Now that just right there, you're probably thinking tetanus is a problem. Well, no, that wasn't as big a problem as you might guess. But, and that was my thought too. I thought tetanus would probably be a problem. Well, no, the big problem was smallpox and, of course, dysentery because of the bad sanitation. A lot of times the latrines were placed too close to the food was being prepared or too close to the water supply, and that would get in there and just get terrible dysentery, raging diarrhea, and that causes dehydration. And then what do they have to drink? River water. And then the shaving aspect, or anything to do with training or with combat, poor sanitation, any wound, you get from shaving or getting shot or cut, you'd end up with sepsis, blood poisoning. So anything could be fatal. You have to be awful careful. That was kind of hard to do in the 18th century. where they knew basically what was causing trouble. They didn't know what to do about it. There really wasn't the infrastructure we have today. So I read somewhere that in the shooting war of the Revolution, far more, up to 90% of the casualties of the American Revolution were from disease and infection, far more than of the bullet wounds or getting blown up or stabbed with a bayonet, or the stuff that you'd associate with a shooting war. It was mostly Mother Nature trying to knock out our boys. There was smallpox was pretty bad, and that was mostly hardest on the colonial people, because smallpox was pretty big rampant in Europe. So most of the English guys, once they were here, had either been exposed to or had it, survivors of smallpox, or were naturally resistant. However, colonial boys, as smallpox wasn't that big, in the colonies, so there wasn't a lot of resistance to that. So they caught it real easy. And smallpox is very, very infectious. I think we got this edge. It's cruising right along. So people are getting smallpox pretty easily. Now there was some rudimentary inoculations available. What they would do is they give you a little wound and then get you close to somebody who's got smallpox. And then you'd either catch it, or a very mild case of it, hopefully, or you'd catch it in all of its glory and you'd end up dead or scarred or blind. Medicine wasn't exactly an exact science in those days. The English, their kryptonite, or what was really getting them bad, was the pests in the colonies, particularly chiggers. Little tick-like critters that the colonial troops had dealt with all their lives, because we were all over the place in the undergrowth and the woods of the new colonies. British hadn't had that. Now, it didn't kill anybody, but sure made them miserable. Itching, gets under those heavy wool uniforms, which is another problem that the colonials had. Didn't have very good supplies, so they were wearing whatever they showed up with. They were getting uniforms, but it was a slow process. Just think of starting up a new army from nothing. That's essentially what the task that George Washington had ahead of him, the colonial people. They got her done, but it took some time. And military discipline, cleanliness, following chains of command. Just basic attendance sometimes was a problem. But they were working on it, tried to get her done, and well, we turned out okay, but it sure took a while. I'm Major Rich. You find me at theshavingcountry.com. If you've made it this far, so thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe if you're so inclined. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.